So next up we have Dr. Karin Geuijen from the Utrecht School of Governance. You can come forward. And she will present on social and community enterprises and what their role is in the work around refugees and asylum seekers.
Yeah. Okay, well, today we talk about collaborative solutions to society issues. And that means that we talk about issues that, or solutions that go beyond just things that state actors come up with, or market actors come up with, or just civil society actors come up with. And what I try to do today is to give you one example, and that is on the issue of the reception of asylum seekers. And we all know this is a wicked issue. This is something which is politically a really sensitive issue, and also we do not exactly know what the problem is or what the solution to the problem could be. So it is also a complex issue, politically sensitive and technically complex. On the one hand, there are people who say, well, we should protect refugees, their human rights got violated, and we are part of the people who are responsible for that, for being part of the global society. On the other hand, there are people who say, true, but we also need to protect our national society. It's quite expensive to do the reception of asylum seekers. They are very different from us, cultural identity argument. And third, maybe it's dangerous. Maybe there are criminals or even terrorists amongst them. So on the one hand, there are people who say, let's protect refugees. On the other hand, people who say, let's protect our national community. And it's sort of a trade-off. It's really, really difficult. So that ended up in what we call a broken asylum system. Within the Netherlands, everybody knows, I guess, also in a lot of other countries, asylum seekers, so people who search for protection because of violation of their rights in their home countries. These people get housed in large-scale reception centers. They stay there for a long time because their legal procedures take a long time. They have to wait. They are not allowed to work in a regular way. They are not allowed to have some education in a regular way. And they share rooms. So there is little privacy. And the places where these reception centers are housed are mostly not very happy with getting such a reception center. So, three main problems, one could say. On the one hand, for the asylum seekers themselves, there is little well-being in staying in a reception center. When they get out of the center, they, after this long phase of waiting, they enter the labor market really difficult. They have difficulties entering the labor market. Only about 40% of them has a job after 5 years, a job of more than 12 hours a week. So that is a difficulty, not only for them, also for the host society. And there are conflicts with the neighborhood. So traditional actors had difficulties with solving this wicked issue. As I said, on the one hand, people saying we need to protect refugees. On the other hand, people saying we need to protect our national community. So a sort of ideological conflict. Market partners were not interested in this. There is no real business case in doing this. And civil society actors sort of, the traditional organizations sort of tried to advocate for refugees, but they didn't have a real solution to this. So, there were actors on a local level within the Netherlands, and that is the example I'm going to give you, who said, let's try it in a different way. There must be a better way to do this than just the way that now is the mainstream way to do it. So let's try and make an innovative, collaborative solution. And they came up with this plan, this idea. That was, they called it Plan Einstein. It was a social innovation with two important aspects. One was, it was housed in an old office building, and they said, well, let's create win-win solutions. Let's not have a neighborhood experience this as a burden, while refugees also experience this as a burden, having to live there. Let's not have burdens in two ways, but let's create a win-win situation. And they said, okay, there is a crisis situation. This was 2016-17. If we would take the problems, the complaints of the neighborhood seriously, saying we don't have housing ourselves. Why give all the housing to asylum seekers? And it's difficult for ourselves to get jobs or education. So why spend all that money on education for asylum seekers? And in the city of Utrecht, in one neighborhood in the north of the city, they said, let's try to build on this, to take this seriously. And they came up with a solution which consisted of two aspects. One was co-living, and the other one was co-learning. So co-housing and co-learning, one could also say. And the co-housing part was, let's create not only spaces for asylum seekers to live in, but let's also create 38 places for youngsters in this specific deprived neighborhood to live in. Let's actually take the complaints of the community seriously. And the co-learning was, okay, people in the neighborhood also have difficulties entering the labor market or starting their own business. Let's open up courses, let's open up coaching for people in the neighborhood as well as for asylum seekers. English, for example, because that is a shared language, and also entrepreneurship courses, because both of these are interesting for people who stay in the Netherlands, who are allowed to stay in the Netherlands, or who already live in this neighborhood, and also people who have to go back to their countries of origin. So they try to create a win-win situation. Who were these people trying to do that? This was an innovative partnership, and it consisted of a broad variety of partners, and that was a crucial thing to do. Not just social and community enterprises, but also very different partners. For example, it was started by the city of Utrecht, so local authorities. Then the national organization who was responsible normally for the reception of asylum seekers, COA. Then a traditional non-profit organization or non-governmental organization, the Dutch Refugee Council. But also Socius Living, an organization, a social enterprise, which was responsible for converting office buildings into housing for youngsters. The Utrecht Center for Entrepreneurship, giving courses on entrepreneurship to asylum seekers as well as people from the neighborhood. The Social Impact Factory, doing all kinds of social design and working together with youngsters living there, other people from the neighborhood, and asylum seekers, for example, in redecorating the place. Welkom in Utrecht, a grassroots initiative. And the University of Oxford, who did research on this. I worked at that time at the University of Oxford. And the European Union, which provided funding. So what did it deliver? Asylum seekers actually got better prepared for the labor market. They were in an advanced stadium in relation to regular asylum seekers, because they were able to not only take the courses, but also build a network, a local network. Public opinion in the neighborhood was much less negative. Only 6% of the people in the neighborhood were actually really negative about this. There was more equality between users. If you do English courses, if you take English courses, people in this neighborhood could not speak English very well, neither could a lot of asylum seekers. So it was a sort of a more or less equal situation in which they helped each other. And one of the main results was it was actually accepted. This was an example taken by Dutch Parliament to change their reception policies. What were the lessons learned? 3 lessons learned to end this talk with. The first lesson learned was, of course, start with a good idea. But not only your good idea. It should be a good idea which is actually backed up by knowledge, by science. So they started with what they knew was the best way to do this. So, and we, as researchers, we actually contributed this knowledge to them. It was not only them coming up with sort of anecdotal evidence. Second, make it work. It's not just having a good idea and being able to come up with all kinds of good knowledge. You actually have to make it work. What is important in making it work? Timing is really, really important. It doesn't work at any moment in time. When they started this, there was this refugee crisis, the Syrians mostly coming to Europe and also to the Netherlands. So, as Churchill once seemed to have said, is never waste a good crisis. And that is what they actually did. They used the crisis to make it happen. What he also did is not get stuck in this ideological controversy, which was dominant at the national level. So, let's protect the refugees. No, let's protect the national community. They thought we need to get away from that. We need to make it much more pragmatic. So they shifted it to the local level. They actually created an experimental place at the local level. Co-create with unusual partners. Don't get stuck with just the traditional NGOs or just the traditional social enterprises. Create an alliance which is really varied, because then you can actually combine all these different resources that the partners have, including different ways of seeing a problem and seeing a solution. Use innovative working methods. Use design thinking. Start small, and then try to find small next steps to develop a plan. Arrange appropriate financing. That was one of the really important things. They got a lot of money from the European Union, but they got the money because they were able to make it work in this way, because of the alliance, because of the timing, and because of the great idea, of course. And then provide evidence. It's not enough to have just one nice example, to have one anecdote. Well, the people are really happy with this, but actually be able to show the numbers. We made extensive reports, not only at the end, but during the process. So every 6 weeks, we provided feedback to the alliance of partners. And that helped them to adjust their ways of working. For example, in the beginning, they were really afraid of the neighborhood. They thought, well, the neighborhood was really negative, so we need to keep it low profile. And we did a research in the neighborhood survey, and it turned out that only 6% of the neighborhood was actually negative. And the rest was more or less sort of neutral. I don't notice it, or I don't exactly know where it is, or a little bit positive. When they knew that it wasn't that dangerous to get out in the open, they were able to actually promote it much more. So in order to also attract people from the neighborhood. So evidence, research is really important. Final, mainstream it. What happens a lot, and we also saw that this morning in the talk of Thomas, is there are a lot of projects, there are a lot of social enterprises, but it's really very fragmented. What these people did really well is a combination of social entrepreneurship, social and community entrepreneurship, and institutional entrepreneurship, collaborating with local authorities, so local civil servants, and also some civil servants in the ministry at the national level. That made it possible to get this idea, which turned out to work really well, to get it in the heads of policy makers, to get it also in the hearts of policy makers. And in the end, it resulted in accepting this, not only within the ministry, in the civil service, but actually in the Dutch parliament. So that combination is crucial. Social and community entrepreneurs and institutional entrepreneurs. Very different people, social and community entrepreneurs, doing stuff and making it work, and institutional entrepreneurs, more the people who know how to lobby, who know who to contact, at which time, all these sorts of things. Not the same people are able to do that, mostly. So that was one example of only one example of a whole big program that we are doing now. It's called Welcoming Spaces, and it is on how migrants can contribute to revitalizing shrinking areas, so depopulating and economically declining areas in 5 European countries: the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Italy, and Spain. So we use that Plan Einstein as a sort of example to also check against stuff in all these other countries. Thank you very much for your attention.